recommit support and stuff like that. So for us, I calculated it today. We have about 160 different entities, different donors, 160 on our spreadsheet from the last term. 7 of those are churches, 2 of those are businesses, 1 is an endowment gift, and 150 of them are individuals or couples. So I don't have an answer for how to keep up with that many people personally. That's something we find extremely challenging. We spend a ton of time on home assignment connecting with people, but we find that it pays off. And yeah, so just keeping up relationship, and not, sometimes we get hung up on this thing of like, well, am I just keeping up this relationship because I want them to give again? And you gotta find ways to work through that, because it can feel really forced sometimes. But yeah, being available, being relational, keeping up with people. The second thing is make the ask. Ask them for money, like actually ask them. It's amazing how we find ways of getting around it and kind of hemming and hawing and mentioning that we have a budget, and like actually ask them, whether it's in a group or individually, and be specific about how much money you're raising and when you need it by. So for us, yesterday we were sharing at a congregation. You know, this isn't the main point of what we're sharing. We had an hour-long presentation. We're sharing stories and different things, sharing the stories, you know. But part of it is how can you be involved? And one of many points we had was financially. We say right now we are at about 80% funded. We're joint appointed workers, and so the other agency we serve with, they require us to have 100% of our funds raised or committed before we return to the field. So we tell people that we have to have 100% of our budget raised before we can return the end of next month. We're 80% there, and everybody goes, oh, that's great. We say, it is great. We say, we still need $30,000 more to get to 100%. So being specific, I think people respond to that because they have a lot of opportunities to give to a lot of places. And if they don't know that you actually have a need, there's probably not a huge incentive to give. We also think it's a really important to give opportunity to partner in a variety of ways. So we don't go out just fundraising. Like in our presentation, we talk first and foremost about prayer support, and that's maybe a topic for another webinar. But if you're 200% funded, but you don't have prayer support, like don't go because you're in a bad situation actually. But you can share about the needs, and for prayer, you can tell them how to get your newsletter. You can share all these different things at the same time. And people's lives, all of our lives take different twists and turns along the way. And so someone who started out as your financial supporter might not be able to give anymore because things have changed, and that's okay, but they're gonna still pray. Somebody else this year, somebody I worked with years ago, she's been getting our newsletter for 10 years, never was a financial partner. And this year out of the blue, she sends in a support form to be a monthly supporter. And I was like, wow, I wonder where that came from, you know? And I wrote her a note, I sent her an email and said, hey, thanks. And she's like, yeah, you know, we have been supporting somebody else and they retired and we wanted to give to someone else, and you guys are the only ones we know. So I was like, okay, so you just never know. So keep up their relationships. Newsletters, write your newsletters. And I'm preaching this to myself as much as anybody because like when you first go on the field, there's lots of things that are new and exciting and you want to tell everybody about it. And then when you've been there a while, it's sort of, I don't know, for a lot of us, kind of like, really, I have to write the newsletter. But we've had a lot of supporters tell us that they appreciate them. And a lot of supporters have linked their comments to their interest in continuing to support us. I've also had a lot of people tell me, you know, some other workers, they don't really keep in touch, and that makes me less likely to support them. So write the newsletters, even though you don't have time, even though everything else seems more important, write the newsletters, stay connected. one thing that we have found important, people, we believe, support the ministry we're a part of in Thailand for one of two reasons. Either they really believe in the work we're doing, or they have a close connection with us personally, or both. And so we don't put our energy into fundraising activities that aren't focused on one or both of those two things. So in other words, we don't do a lot of fundraisers in general because we don't find that events bring in a lot of money, and they take a lot of energy. But we do, every time we're back, when it's not a COVID pandemic, we do a Thai meal, and our MST is super helpful in chopping vegetables and making this thing happen. And it's a lot of fun. It's a really good way to connect with a lot of people. But what we need to be doing at that meal is sharing the stories and making personal connections, because come next month, the Thai food's going to be long gone, but we still have a need. And if we haven't made that link, those people aren't going to be tracking with us anymore. So that's just where we choose to put our energy. I know that Abe said he's going to talk about tools and nuts and bolts. We've been using TNT Ware, which I think a number of you probably use as well. It's a database, it's free. It's a lot of work to get started using it. There's a ton of information you've got to enter. It's a steep learning curve if you're not techie. It is absolutely worth it. And this is a really great place that if you have an MST member or two who's good with the details, they can help you keep up with that stuff. We have found it really important to keep up with the details, or if you have MST members who can keep up with the details. I think it was our first term maybe that got to the end of the first term and realized we had several people who had pledged support and never given anything, and nobody kind of realized it until, you know, it seemed like it was too late to say anything. And so I don't know what happened to those people, but the details matter. And it's yeah, if you have someone on your MST, I think that's the best. But I think I'll stop there. Those are just, we've had some good experiences. A lot of people have asked about support raising during this time where you can't do the gatherings that normally we would do. We've done a ton of stuff online. It's been extremely time consuming. I mean, I would say we've been working steady at support raising since the end of March, which isn't, maybe that sounds. And if somebody else has an idea of how you can like not spend your entire furlough only doing that, I'd be glad to hear them. But it pays off. Like we feel like people have responded, but it's extra challenging because you're not in churches, or at least the last few months, you know, haven't been in churches every Sunday where you can rub shoulders with people after the service and chat. You have to be a lot more intentional. And so it can be done. And we've had some good experiences with it. And when we say things like our budget's going up and we need more support, we've had a lot of people respond generously and increase their support. So we're just super thankful. We've experienced the Lord's faithfulness in a lot of different things. And yeah, it can be done. It can be done. And it's not somebody, I was reading one book about support raising, and the guy said, you know, is support raising hard? Well, maybe, but like think about the work that you're going to be called, that you're called to, and that you're doing on the field or whatever your ministry work is. You're going to encounter a lot harder things. And if you're not ready for that, you know, maybe it's a key that you need to re-examine sort of what you're setting yourself up for. So yeah, anyhow, that's been a little bit of our experience. And if anybody has questions later, we can respond to those, but thanks for the chance to share.
Thank you, Sarah. That was excellent. Really appreciate what you've learned and sharing from the wealth of experience you all have had these last, what is it? Is it 10 years now? Yeah, wow, thank you. Next, we're going to turn to Missy Weaver, I believe, and who's going to tell us a bit about her experience as an MST member.
Hi. Hi, Abe had asked me to actually talk about what we do with our prayer update and MailChimp. So I'm just trying to make sure listening to is that still where you want me to go? Okay, I just didn't know. I know that's kind of a different line. I'm the prayer coordinator for Steve and Bethany's MST, but I can just talk a little bit about what we found helpful for communication. So what we've done is we do get a list. We will get like information about needs that come from Steve and Bethany that will be just for the MST, like that'll be more of like a personal letter, but we have a monthly rhythm of at the beginning of the month sending a MailChimp newsletter, prayer newsletter. And so what we do for that is that Steve and Bethany will send me a list of their prayer requests. We chose a format that could be repeatable because we found that that's helping people to kind of engage on a monthly basis. They kind of know what to expect. So for ours, we do the Lord's Prayer, and we ask for the Father's character, the Father's provision, the Father's guidance. There's 6 parts. And we use the same exact format each month, but then just change the requests. Bethany will send that to me in a raw form, just kind of with the pictures. She'll send me the pictures and then send me the text separately. And so then I'll take those and then I'll do the formatting so that she can just send me the prayer request, but doesn't have to also do the work of having to create a product to send out. So MailChimp has been a really good fit for us because we were able to take the database that was for the fundraising and those who indicated that they wanted to do prayer support. And you can also like export it into spreadsheets, which is helpful. And we do almost all of our prayer updates through that service. We only have 2 people that receive hard copies, and we just print the actual MailChimp update and send it to them in the mail. We found that to be really helpful because you're able to replicate if people are unfamiliar with MailChimp and you're hoping to do it. You can use, we use like the same format each month. And then what we do is you just click on replicate and it will have everything the same. And then you can just change out the date. You can change out the pictures, change out the text. So that's a way that we found to help with kind of the constant contact. Typically, Bethany tries to get that to me around the 1st of the month. And then we typically try to get it out the 1st week of the month just to kind of keep people in the loop each month of what's going on. That's also been another point where we have been able to sneak in some of the things about a fundraiser or about another plug for giving. We've been able to like embed the video that they wanted to use for fundraising in that prayer update. We've been able to invite people to prayer nights in that update. And then also like if there is a special event, we'll put that at the top. So there is still the newsletter. There are still like pushes if we do some sort of fundraising event or special appeal. It's just another contact. I think it's the multiple levels and multiple contacts has been helpful, as well as the consistency of sending. I mean, now I have to put like, April 2020 because we've been doing it for several years and people can follow along. One like silly thing is we do, I've learned, I don't know where I picked it up, but for someone that you can put emojis in actually the subject line of an email, which sounds silly, but it actually helps people to see the email in their inboxes. So like, let's say for June, we put a little sun emoji and then June 2020 and then another sun emoji. So if you look down at your inbox and you have all of these subject lines, sometimes just having like a little picture helps people's eyes get drawn to that. And it's just another like little tiny, doesn't take any extra effort, but it gets people's eyes on your material a little bit better. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Missy. I know I always appreciate getting Steve and Bethany's prayer letter. There's so much detail there, things to really pray about. So you both learn what's happening, but you also can join them and be part of the ministry in prayer. So
Yes.
excellent job. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right. Abe, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Missy, and Mark and Sarah and Aaron, for your words. So there might have been maybe a disconnect that some people felt between those two different things. Is my screen here?
It's starting. I don't see the content yet.
All right. Should land on a slide here soon. But while there's two testimonies might have felt a little different, I think the point we're trying to really drive home here is that it's all the same. You know, your fundraising isn't just asking for money. You're truly building partners. Uh-oh, my Zoom supposedly crashed. Can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you, Abe.
You can hear me? Okay. All right, my Zoom app said it was crashing, but I guess we're good. But you're truly developing partners. So your end goal isn't necessarily fundraising. Your goal is to get people behind you and around you supporting you. And that just takes constant communication, whether it's through prayer, through personal visits, all these different means of communication tie individuals to the ministry that you're doing more and more, and makes them less likely to stop supporting you. So I want to get into the kind of the nuts and bolts of how we do that. And I think Sarah and Missy both are great examples of saying, you know, MST members can help pick up a lot of that work. Sarah mentioned that, you know, the last thing you want to do sometimes is sit down and write a fundraising, or not a fundraising letter, but a newsletter. So MST members can take that, you know, that raw story like Missy was saying, and, you know, kind of package it more neatly, put that work in, that little extra step, to make it a repeatable pattern for your ministry partners to really come to expect and to engage your ministry more often. So right at the tail end, Missy was talking about MailChimp. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over it because I know a lot of you use it already, but it is the best free software that really just helps make things really easy for communication. I think Missy had a great point where, you know, you can just print it off. If not all of your supporters are up for the whole email thing, you just print it off and mail it to them, and it's already a nicely laid out newsletter or a prayer letter. And that really, really cuts your work down. Another great program is Canva. We use this in the office a bit. It's just fantastic free software that I'd say it's like Photoshop Lite almost. You can put text on images, create different designs, really nice looking newsletters, and again, it saves online. So your time editing it is really minimal once you do it the first time. And then Animoto is a great free online movie maker. It's not the most robust. It can do some really basic things like taking your pictures, putting text with it, and just making it into a nice little slideshow movie with a little music in the background. That can serve as a little, you know, little change up from, you know, a newsletter. Sometimes people just, you know, especially if they support a few people, a few workers, they don't always want to go through a whole newsletter. Sometimes they won't read the whole newsletter. So just in case, got to change it up every once in a while. And that's a really easy way to do that. So now for the more nuts and bolts. All of you as workers and MST chairs, and I think some fundraising coordinators have access to Donor Hub. This is a new program that VMMissions has started using within the past year because we became aware of how important prompt thank yous are for when all nonprofits or ministries receive funding. People feel a lot more appreciated when we can thank them quickly. So Donor Hub is the worker and MST's way to get that information as quickly as possible. I know some of you are on it and some of you aren't. If you have had trouble logging in, send me an email after this presentation, and hopefully we can figure it out. I know Hotmail users have had trouble. I guess the firewall on Hotmail stops the donor hub emails from coming in and giving you your login info. So just send me an email after that and we can work around it. But for a quick tour of Donor Hub, they've given me a demo database that lets me show you how everything works without showing any sensitive information. So where it says Toontown Ministries here, it'll be the VMMissions logo. You'll have your username and login up here. But your home page here, it'll have your name here, or a version of your name. So it'll give you a quick rundown of your donations you received this month. It'll be in US dollars. But you will not see this account balance part. We do not share expenses with workers and MSTs through this program. So you'll only see this top part here. So that's your quick rundown. And then you can dive more into the details by hitting either this donations button or this quick link here. So as you can see, your whole monthly donations here laid out for you. Is my picture coming in all right?
Yeah, we see it. Fred and Wilma Flintstone there.
Yes, yes. They're great partners in this ministry, all these Disney characters. So this allows you to see a quick rundown of everything you've received so far. So this is the month of June. At the bottom here, you see 17 donations, $1,500. That's a really easy way to get a quick monthly average. So then this is sortable by these black labels at the top. So you can do alphabetical if you click the ministry part button. They came in, these are all the same. And then the amount. So you can sort them in different ways, as well as go to previous months. So you can compare who's giving every month, who's not. Yeah, so these are just great tools to help you see your monthly donations. And then further on, Ministry Partners tab here at the top. This allows you to see anyone who's ever given to your particular cause. So for VMMissions, our account's set up, so it takes a long time to load. But you see here, Clark Kent has 42 ministry partners. And it has the first date they've given, the last date they've given, located here. And then you can click on the blue names here, and it will show you their contact info. So they've given two $325. And if one of these was recent, you can just type in their phone number and give them a quick call. Their emails will pop up there as well. So that's you as an MST and worker. Best practice would be to check this about weekly. Hop on there and see, if you have any new donations and try to thank them as quickly as possible. That was really hammered home at the past Everence Development Conference that Aaron and myself attended. I think Les was there too. That prompt thank yous go a long way of just really making people feel appreciated and a part of the work that's happening. So from here, you can also export all of this work or all of this information by scrolling down here to the bottom where it says download. You have these three icons. Any of them will work, but this one here, the XLS, it has the best format. It's just a normal Excel sheet, but that will give you even more information. It goes into, how often their phone records have been updated, how recently their email was updated. So if something might be out of date, you could probably catch it there. But that will download from the Ministry Partners tab, at least. It'll download your entire history of Ministry Partners. The last thing I want to show you on this program is the change date and other options button. So if you click into here, you can see, they gave in the last 2 years, no gifts were changed and added, and as well as in the donations tab, they have that same button. So let's say you have a 1-year term, a 1-year date will work the last full 12 months. But if you're on a 2-year term or like a 27-month, which I know some of you are, then you can enter your custom date range, and that will give you, who contributed in this last term or my first term. And then you can really start seeing, for your next term, what things are going to look like. What can I expect each person to give? And that will help you plan, especially if your budget might go up next year or whatever. If your budget's going to go up by 5%, maybe you can look at these numbers and say, could all these people increase by 5%? And you know what that is. That's just one of the ways you can export info from this program. So let me close out of that quickly. As Sarah mentioned before, TNT Connect is a database for missionaries. So TNT Connect is created by the same organization that creates Donor Hub. So they're integrated super duper well. I'm not going to go into TNT Connect because it is super duper complicated, like Sarah said, to go over in this time period. But this link here will take you to a video that will show you the ins and outs of it and what it can do. It will still take a lot of setup time, but if you log in with Donor Hub, you can actually download your entire database of donors straight into this program, TNT Connect, and then from there, it will tell you, how often you contact people, what their pledges are, how often they get, and all that goes into, making sure you have the details correct. Like Sarah said, if someone doesn't give and you forget about it, if they were pledged to give a certain amount and you near the end of your term, you need to know about it. And as an office, we've taken a lot of steps to help prevent that from happening. We now do a yearly pledge check. We send a letter to every donor who has a pledge in the entire VMMissions constituency, and just make sure they know how much they've given, how much is left, and we ask if that's still their intention. So for you as workers, that goes a long way to help prevent situations like that. But it is always great to have a second set of eyes, or however many set of eyes on your MST, making sure that that information is correct. So I would encourage you to check that out on your own time, and I can help you walk through that if that's something you're interested in. We just don't have time to dig into the nitty gritty for that right now. But then Donor Hub, the ability to export your contacts, your missionary partners, is also super helpful for something like MailChimp. You can just download your list and insert it straight into MailChimp, and then your contacts are instantly in there. That information is also really important for something like this Namestorm and Pledge Tracker. This is a little tool I've modified a bit from what I've seen in some books that I've read on fundraising missionaries, particularly Free Ministry by Scott, this Namestorm tool is out of. So he recommends being about 210 partners for long-term success. So this was his, help you reach that number, especially if you're a struggling fundraiser or a new fundraiser. This can help you generate a lot of names of people who may be able to support you. There's a little instruction box down here.
Abe, can you repeat just a little bit of that? At least it was garbled on my end. It might have been for other people.
All right, sure. Sorry about that. Where would you like me to backtrack to?
I heard you mentioning an author you read, and he mentioned some recommendation of number of supporters, and then you were going into the spreadsheet.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so Scott Mortensen, he is the author of a great book, Fundraising Your Ministry. It goes everywhere from the theology of it, all through every little detail of what he's experienced and how to go about writing letters and all sorts of stuff. So I definitely recommend that. But he recommends 210 people as a minimum for mission workers trying to raise support. So this is his attempt at, just trying to get a broad list of people. You sit down with your MST and you just try to fill in every blank you can without repeating a name. There are many ways to do name pyramids and all sorts of different stuff we've handed out in the past. This is just another iteration of that. You don't have to use it, but I just wanted to let you know it's available. But that list of names is important for this next step. Calculator. So let me zero it out here. So if we're going off of our Toontown database over here, we have 17 donations and $1,500 this month. So let's say what we have 17 donors. We have a 24-month term, and our fundraising goal is $60,000. Everything equal, each person will have to give $147 a month. Now, that's probably a little high for most people. Some people will be able to help you out and contribute to your ministry in that way, but a lot of them won't. So I made this calculator to try to help kind of diversify what you should expect to ask people. A lot of ministry support books talk about how it's going to be a smaller proportion, probably 40% of your population of supporters, going to carry about 60% of the load here. So there's going to be a lot of maybe it's churches or wealthy donors who are able to give a little bit more, which can really help bring down the monthly average else. So of course the math is never going to work out perfectly, but if you have 200 people like they recommend, maybe you have 10 people who can give a little bit more, and the math is never going to be perfect, but it's just to give you an idea of where people might be able to give, how many people. So you see here on the left, donors needed for this level. You have 10 people who can contribute, $7.50 a month. That gives you your $1,800. That's your top bracket. Of course, with numbers this small, it looks a little bit different. Some of you, $60,000 is a ton, and some of you $60,000 is like, a fifth of your budget. So we're ranging from a lot of different things here. It's just another tool to help diversify your expectations. What Sarah said about asking an exact amount, that's really what a lot of fundraisers would recommend. So to get an idea of using the Donor Hub tool, Buzz Lightyear here gave $100 last month. That's not going to be enough. Maybe Buzz Lightyear can jump up to like $120 a month. But just to know where your donors are at, where you can expect them to be, and maybe you can ask that specific number if they could increase at a later time, or not next week, in 2 weeks from now. Les will probably get more in detail about how you go about deciding where people might decide to give. But the important thing is that not everyone will give equally. So, and you have to be able to kind of expect that. And going back to the whole theological side of it, you're not asking them for you. So you should feel empowered to try to, be a minister to them in that fundraising sense, where you can help them release that money to God. So when you get into, I know it can maybe feel, you might feel a little guilty, like thinking, I don't know if, for instance, Buzz Lightyear, should I really ask him for, $120 a month. But when you remove that barrier of asking for yourself, getting into the numbers like this might not feel so dirty or so wrong. And that's where a lot of fundraising is going now, is asking specifically. So that's just some tools that can help you, and I see we are running out of time here. So if you have any other questions, I guess now's the time to ask them. Aaron, do you want to go through questions, or do you think we should follow up with emails later?
Yeah, like Abe is, thank you, Abe, for your presentation there. You are certainly welcome to send us emails with specific questions you have if we don't have time to answer them now. I do see a few chat questions regarding emails from MailChimp, etc. And I think some of you were able to answer them yourselves. But yeah, we're at time. So unless anyone really has a burning question they'd like to ask us, I think we will draw this to a close, but I'll just give a minute in case anyone is interested in asking a question. And Abe, you can stop sharing your screen there. Okay, if there are no questions, thank you so much for joining us, and wish you God's blessing, and please be in touch. Next week, don't forget to join us, same time. Les is going to share from his experience in fundraising. It's going to be great. You won't want to miss it. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much for being with us this evening. Blessings.